Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here, for joining this special event. We think it's a special event because we want to have a very honest, open conversation about the census. Let me introduce myself. My name is Scarlett Lanzas. I'm the Chief Community Officer for Emerging Global Investments. We do impact investing and we help people invest their money in sustainable and responsible companies so that we can impact in a positive way the planet, the environment, people, and our communities in general. I'm also honored to be a Hispanic Star Ambassador in Miami. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the hub, the Miami hub, and what we do in Miami in a little bit, but let me also briefly introduce our wonderful panelists. We have Miss Ana Giron, who's a Sandoval Giron, I'm sorry. Ana Sandoval Giron, she's joining us from the US Census. She's a researcher, a sociologist. She's gonna be explaining what the census is all about, what can we expect from the census, and learn all the amazing things that through the census we can achieve in our community. We're also gonna hear from the lovely Janie Flores. She is the president of Buena Vista Media, and she is a super connector, and she's gonna tell us a lot about the census. She's a census ambassador, and she's a
Buena vida, buena vida.
Buena vida.
Vida.
Perfect, thank you. And also we have Christian Rodarte, who's the managing director for Autobiography LLC. And he's also a Hispanic Star Ambassador here in Miami. So welcome everyone. Hispanic Star, let me tell you a little bit about Hispanic Star. It's a national initiative that started as a way to showcase the contributions of the Hispanic contribution to the United States. It's an initiative that it's nonpartisan, it's inclusive, it's inspirational, and it's becoming a force for good in our community. Since we're all suffering from the effects of the COVID-19, we shifted our efforts to redirect assets, networks, and platforms to put the Hispanic Stars in action. Through the Hispanic Star hubs around the country, we aim to support Hispanics, and we are determined to drive our community towards a quicker recovery. There's about 25 to 30 Hispanic hubs, and we would love to people that are joining us to start their own hubs or join the existing hubs. Let me also tell you about the Hispanic Star Miami. This is us. You can see there's a lot of ambassadors right there. We're 21 professional and committed individuals in driving change in our community. We have been able to do a lot of projects, but also we had the support from the National Hispanic Star Office. We were able to do much more when we all come together. We are fortunate to have generous supporters, sponsors, and partners. And through their work and through their help, we've been able to do in the past 2-3 months, all of these events that you see there. We communicate, we organize, and we mobilize resources. We did a week of action to support healthcare heroes. We were able to collect funds to bring meals to the ICU units in 6 hospitals in Miami-Dade County. And we are so happy that we were able to feed or support or show our love to 2,000 people. And at the same time, the money that we raised, we used it towards local Hispanic businesses. So we were able to give them a little bit of business so that they can also survive through this pandemic. And just last weekend, we were also fortunate to receive a huge donation from Procter & Gamble and PepsiCo and many others to bring personal care packages to farm workers in Homestead, Florida. We were able to support 2,000 families in Homestead, and we were so blessed to have brought this help for them. And we're here also because we want to talk about the census, how important it is. Janie did a wonderful conversation last week on Facebook Live with Margaret Sanchez from Maleo. So we just wanted to have you all join us to do more for our community and fill out the census. With this, I'm gonna pass it over to Ana. so that she can tell us more about the census.
Hi, good afternoon. So thank you so much for having us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about census, about how it impacts our communities. And then we, I'll be happy to answer any questions that people have at the end. So I'm just, here we go. So we can go to the next slide. So our goal is to complete an accurate count of everyone that lives in the United States. And this graph just shows you sort of the process that we go through. So next slide. So I want to reiterate who is counted. So we want to count every person living in the US on April 1st, no matter where they're from, why they're in the United States, and whether or not they're documented. So this includes people that are here as temporary workers, international students, any workers on assignment from overseas, but we do want to count everybody. And that continues to be our goal. Next slide. So why it matters? Well, there's so many programs that are linked, or that the data that we collect from the census has an impact on these programs. So let me tell you a few of those things. It helps the government distribute $775 billion a year. It provides a population benchmark for nearly every other US survey in the United States. So when you hear that the population in Miami grew by 5%, that baseline is what the census is providing. That is why it's done every 10 years. It informs the needs for things like school, daycares, hospitals, health clinics, and many of the services with Spanish-speaking personnel. So here's a list of stuff: medical assistance programs, unemployment services, CHIP insurance, healthcare prevention, lunch programs, Head Start, maternal health, block grants, child welfare services. And so all of these matter to our communities. So next slide, please. So we get asked this a lot, like where are people counted? Where should people be counted? So we want to count people at the usual residence, which is the place where they live and sleep most of the time. Census counts all people living in an address, not just the person or the family. So for example, if you live in a 2-bedroom apartment and there's one family in each of the rooms, you will count not just the leaseholder, but everybody, both families that are living in that apartment. So we also want to count all the kids that are not relatives, foster kids, kids we know other place to live. You just want to count all of them. So on Census Day, or now this is being moved a little bit, but people that live in group facilities are counted at the group facility. So for example, if you're in a long-term care facility, that person will be counted in the long-term facility, like a nursing home. And people who do not have a usual residence, so people who, for example, may be experiencing homelessness, we will count them too. We have a special operation for that, and those people will be counted. And I can tell you, if you're curious about how it's done, I'm happy to give you more information on that. Okay, next slide. So what do we ask? We want to know the number of people that live at the address, any additional people that are living or staying at the address, if the place you live is owned or rented, a phone number, name and sex of every person that lives there, the age and date of birth. We want to ask Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin, race, whether a person lives or stays somewhere else part of the time. And this is particularly relevant for kids, for example, with shared custody agreements, 50-50 or 40-30, and I don't know, like all sorts of agreements. And we also ask about the relationship between the person that's filling out the form and everybody else that lives there. So next slide. So let me tell you what we will not be asking you. We are not going to ask you ever your social security number, money or donations, anything on behalf of a political party, your bank stuff, your credit card numbers, not at all. And we will not be asking a citizenship status. If you receive a call or someone comes to your door and asks you any of these questions, they're probably a scam, and you should call. We have a census number that I will share with you, or that we can share later, but that is probably not a census employee. And you know, I'll talk a little bit about the people that may come to your door in a sec. So can you go to the next slide, please? There we go. So I know that many people in our community have concerns about the citizenship question, the citizenship. So I want to talk a little bit about those. Like I said before, there's no question around citizenship. So that information is not being collected. Non-citizens are counted. So we're counting everybody. That continues to be our goal. Your answers cannot be shared with any other law enforcement agency. So your individual answers cannot be used to impact things like government benefits. We're only using them to create statistics to get a big picture of the country. So all census employees are bound by this law called the Title 13, and we have to protect personal information until the day we die. And it's held strictly confidential, so you can never release information once you have worked for the Census Bureau. So let me tell you a little bit. Can we go to the next slide, please? So, you know, COVID happened. We've all experienced it. So we've had to make some changes to what we were doing. We had a plan, and in the middle of March, that plan had to change. So our main goals, you know, the census is continuing, but our main goals continue to be, we want to protect the health and safety of employees and everyone out there. We are implementing the guidance from federal, state, and local health authorities. So when a county or a town says we're completely closing down, we will follow those regulations. We want to also ensure a complete and accurate count of everybody. So it's a little bit of it's a hard balance there. And then I have added a link here to all the operational adjustments. So things do change, and they've been changing quite rapidly. So if you want to know all the, you know, nitty-gritty details, this is the website where you can get all that information. So right now, and can we go to the next slide? We're entering the phase for non-response follow-up. So this is the stage in which, when we have asked people to respond online, to call, to send the form back. If they have not responded, they become part of a non-response follow-up. That means someone will come to your door. That's really what that means. And because of COVID, we are doing a soft launch to test out how this works, but we're expecting that between August 11th, so in like 2 weeks, and August 31st, we will have, and NERFA means non-response, what is it, non-response follow-up. I don't remember what all that means, sorry. So the point is, someone will come to your house if you have not responded. So phase 1 has started in 6 of the area census offices, and the second phase of this will start later this month, which, you know, the end of this week, and we'll go full blown August 11th. And again, you know, we're making adjustments based on the local conditions. And what you should know is that all of our staff have been issued personally protective equipment. So they should all have masks and gloves and hand sanitizer. And we have provided instructions to all of our staff on how to reduce contact. Also, this is something like brand new that we are starting to do this week, is that for households that have not responded yet, they may receive a phone call and or an email from the Census Bureau encouraging them to respond. So that's something that's starting to happen this week. The first 5 million emails have gone out, and then they'll start going out throughout the next few weeks. So that's another way in which we're trying to reduce the concerns that people have of us coming to the door. And can we go to the next slide? So, you know, if someone comes to the door, and this is something that, you know, when you talk to your community, when you talk to stakeholders, this is a pretty important piece. They will come, they'll visit your home. If someone comes to your home, they should have a valid ID badge with a photograph. So everybody has to have their picture taken. And it should have a U.S. Department of Commerce watermark and an expiration date. Even if you're a permanent employee, your ID badge has an expiration date. They also often are carrying census bags, tablets, phones. Like, I don't know where my phone is, but it has like a big sticker that says a property of the Department of Commerce. So those are all things that help you identify someone. If you still don't know, you should, you should ask the census taker for the field office's phone number, and you can call the field office and check. And then, that's another way in which we're trying to protect people out there. So can we go to the next slide? So here's the Miami-Dade response rate. So we have a national rate of 62.3. I think that was late last week, I think Friday. The Florida self-response, that means that people actually responded via email, via phone, internet, or they filled out the form and sent it back to us. It's about 59.4%, so just a little bit under the national average. And the Miami-Dade County is at 57.3, so almost at 60%, but we still needs to get to that 60%. So can we go to the next slide? So as I mentioned, everybody has received an invitation to participate. People can do it on the easiest way is on the internet. Super easy. I did it. I walked my dad through his. They were done in like 5 minutes. It was so easy. Or they can do it by mail if they have the form, or over the phone. We have a call center where we can support 13 languages. So that's something where they can provide their responses. Can we go to the next slide? These are the languages we support. I'm not going to read them all, but we support English and Spanish, which is, I think, and Portuguese. So those are, some of the community I have in Miami-Dade. We also have Haitian Creole, Tagalog. So, this languages cover about 97% of the languages spoken in the US. And we go to the next slide. So this, this kind of activity is part of our community partnership and engagement program. What we want to do is we want to educate people. We want to encourage people to participate, and especially our partners to help us get the word out. And we want to engage with organizations to reach to the hard to count groups, which generally are those that need, that are less likely to respond or have historically responded less. Can we go to the next slide? So we have a bunch of promotional and outreach materials. All of this stuff is available, and everything is in English and Spanish. And we have promotional items also in Spanish. I have a few of them, water bottles and things like that. I don't know if we still have any of those, but this is something that we provide our partners. All of it has been checked and rechecked in both languages, so it's easy for people to understand. Can we go to the next slide, please? So, and as part of the campaign, we have, I hope that you have seen the advertising both on radio, on TV, on the internet. Instagram seems to have a lot of them. I've been getting a lot of Instagram ads in Spanish, and also some print media. And it's part of our Hispanic Integrated Communications campaign. I've added a link where you can see some of these ads. They're really great. And they're all in Spanish, and they use what we found and the research that we did. They use that as the basis of what is going to encourage people to participate. And can we go to the next slide? And this is just the landing page for the census, 2020 census. If you go here, again, all the material is in Spanish. And I know that because I get to check the material and make sure that it's accessible for everyone who's going to read it in Spanish. So those are some of the things that we have. If you go to the next page, we have many ways of connecting with us: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, and you can connect with us in any of those ways. And we have some websites here, and that's all I have. And that was a lot of information. It was really fast. So please ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And I know Mary Ann Garabeo is also on the line, so she should be able to answer any questions that I cannot answer.
Wow, thank you, Ana. This information is exactly what we need so we can share it with our network, with our friends, families, social media. Definitely, we're going to be using your resources to start promoting the different ways to engage our community. That was an amazing, amazing, amazing presentation. So now let's have a conversation, right? Because we started talking about what can we do? How can we put people together or resources together to actually get out there and talk to people? And when I say out there, it's now via phone or Zoom, because we cannot be out there because of COVID-19. So we started reviewing the different literature and reports that are being produced also in Miami, not only nationally. And we found this interesting report from Florida International University, the Metropolitan Center. And they had a very interesting question. Are we a hard to count community? You know? And we were like, wait, we're not getting counted. Just to give you a little bit of context, in 2010, the census failed to count 1.5 million Latino and African Americans, 5% of American Indians living in reservations. It's really shocking because we need to all be counted. And then we also found from the Urban Institute, we found this shocking information as well, that Florida, California, Georgia, New York, Nevada, Texas, and New Mexico have the highest risk for undercounting. So are you listening, all of you people? We need to start getting together and start reaching out to people so that they can fill out the census. Approximately $1.5 trillion in federal and state resources will be allocated based on how the census numbers turn out. Now, let's talk about Miami. In 2010, the completion rate was 72% compared to the national average of 74%. The county's goal for Miami is, for 2020, is to meet or surpass an 82% completion rate. And like Ana told us, in Miami-Dade County, we're only at 57%. So we need to have those conversations to start building momentum and looking for ideas to really get our community together. And when I say our community, Hispanics, African Americans, Haitians, we have a significant population of Haitian brothers and sisters here in Miami. So I wanted to maybe start asking each of my panelists, what do you all think, or why do you think people are not filling out the census? Whoever wants to start, please jump in.
Well, hi everybody. This is Janie Flores. I am president of Buena Vida Media, and I have a multimedia company. We do PR, we do promotions, we do digital marketing and influencer marketing. And I was one of the people that this year was selected to be a census ambassador through Hispanic Unity when they started their census campaign earlier this year in March. And it's really important, and really I don't have so much of a question as much as I have a comment. I think that most of the people that are on this call, that are on this Zoom webinar, we understand the importance of being counted, the importance of the census. We understand the impact. We've seen the numbers, as Scarlett was saying. There was in 2010. There was like 1.4 million Latinos, 1.5 million persons not counted in Florida. And just so you know, I had last week I had a conversation with Margaret Sanchez from La Leo precisely about the census through Facebook Live, and she was telling me that for each person, there is $2,000 assigned for each person per year through the census. Okay, that's one of the reasons that we get counted. And as Scarlett said, there's trillions that have to be assigned. So in 2010, Nationally, there were 400,000 Hispanic children that were not counted. Okay, they were not counted. In terms of, you know, Broward County and Miami-Dade County, there were 18,000 children in Miami-Dade that were not counted. There were 6,000 children in Broward that were not counted. So you do the math. That's 6,000 times 2,000 per year for the past 10 years of money that we have lost, okay, because we were undercounted. So that's really important. And I think that we need to make sure that when we hear these numbers, when we understand the impact of, you know, how it funds our hospitals, our clinics, our schools, our roads, our infrastructure, all of that, that impacts us daily, right? And even more so now through COVID, we see that there aren't enough resources. Well, a lot of that has to do with making sure that we're being counted through the census. And so I really want to encourage you to make it your responsibility to reach out to your families, to your neighbors, right? To especially the Spanish speaking ones, because I think, and we addressed it earlier, the fear of being counted, the fear of not knowing. Many times we have people who are new, right? People who are new that have just arrived in the country and they don't understand. So let's reach out. Let's reach out to them and let them know, listen, this is important because it impacts really every part of our life. And there is a 1-800 or 1-844 number that is specifically in Spanish. It's a direct line to answering the census in Spanish. A lot of our people like to call on the phone. All right, so make it easy for them. It's 844-468-2020. 844-468-2020, and somebody who speaks Spanish will answer the phone and they can fill out the census. So I just want to encourage everybody, and let me just leave a few you know, a few details in terms of the cities in Florida. I have a list of the top 20, a list of the most Hispanic cities in Florida. Number 1 is Hialeah Gardens. And right now, their percentage, since last week, this is a number from last week, their rate of response is at 64.4%. That's not good, right? We want to make sure that it reaches 80%. Hialeah is 63.6%. Sweetwater, 62.5%. West Miami, 54.9%. Pembroke Pines, 73.3%. Fort Lauderdale, 58.6%. So there is a lot of work to be done. And, you know, we can share these numbers with you as well, so that whichever neighborhood you're a part of, whichever city you're a part of, you can start to reach out locally. And you know, a lot of our people live on Facebook. Okay, right now, a lot of people live on Facebook, they live on Instagram, not so much Twitter, but you know, reach out, you know, share some of the graphics that we've created through Hispanic Star Miami, through the U.S. Census Bureau. Share those graphics and personally encourage. I am designating all of you a census ambassador, okay? So that you can reach out and, you know, touch your neighbors, touch your family, and of course, virtually, and encourage them to be counted. Yo cuento, tú cuentas.
Wow, Janie, nos empoderas. Increíble. No, I completely agree with you in terms of like the personal responsibility. And one thing that we talked in the past when we were planning this webinar is that there's a sense of responsibility that we all need to acknowledge, because a lot of people might not remember that many organizations and many individuals fought the administration to not include the citizenship question. So we need to really fill out the census because it's our duty. We need to fill out the census because it's important to our family and our community. But also we have to realize that a lot of people are fighting for people like us, immigrants, Hispanics, that to fill out the census. So let's acknowledge that, be grateful that that they challenged and they won. So it's gratifying that you're saying all of this so we can be empowered to reach out to our networks and ask them to fill out the census. I now want to ask a question, Christian, if that's okay with you, yeah. Because we've been hearing a lot about what are millennials? What are millennials doing? How can we get millennials engaged? how can we talk their language, their social media language? So you're a millennial, you're from the West Coast too, and you're now part of our Miami family. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you think, how you think we can engage millennials.
Sure, step into my office. So I think the millennial generation is they're movers, they're shakers, they are big on social activism. But the difference between what I see with my generation and my parents' generation, for example, is the need for authenticity and the need for resonance. So when we talk about the census, right, to most, I think, millennials, it's like, well, what does that really mean to me as an individual? What does that mean to my best friend? What does that mean to my cousin, to my Tio or Tia, right? It's so many of us really do have a big passion for climate change, resiliency, for transportation, even things like biking, right? And we don't realize that the census dollars that come later impact each of those elements, whether it's public roads, new rail systems, maybe building levees for climate resiliency in places like Miami and New Orleans. And you have to really, I think, bridge that connect to the millennial generation and make it very specific so that they understand, oh, well, I'm excited and passionate about all these things, and this has a direct impact on that thing that which I am very passionate about, versus a broad, as a former professor of mine would say, broad oversimplification, where they're like, well, what does the census really mean? And we really have to be where they are. And so I'm glad that I heard Ana say that we're doing a lot of stuff on social, because that is where millennials live, is on social media. And I would say a big chunk of them are likely more on Instagram than any other platform. One of the things that I've seen work, not specific to the census, for example, let's talk about voting, for example, where I've seen some successful campaigns that reach millennials, someone like Michelle Obama, and When We All Vote, or LeBron James, who launched the More Than a Vote initiative for African Americans, for African American engagement. You have these heroes that people look up, that millennials look up to, and say, okay, I'm going to exercise my civic duty because my hero is telling me that I need to do that. So just those are, I think, some takeaways that I have seen in the last few months, especially being safer at home and being lucky to live between both Los Angeles and Miami, seeing the differences, but also seeing the very, very big similarities in how we need to reach our millennial generation. It's build equity through connection, and not talking at them or telling them you need to do something, because we don't always follow directions.
Great, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, because I mean, the millennials are teaching us a lot. They're very committed and very socially conscious. And I know that millennials and a lot of people on social media are doing this diverse challenges. So I want to ask Anna or Marianne from the Census, because we have to acknowledge that they're being creative and they're doing a lot to get people to fill out the census. There's something called the 2020 Census Response Rate Challenge. So how can we learn about that? And maybe, Christian, among your network, we can push that challenge and have millennials and all people, not just millennials, join this challenge. I don't know if Anna or Marianne can help us with this.
Marianne, are you? Maybe she's not even on the call. Maybe we lost her.
She's here.
No,
she
I'm
just
sorry.
needs to unmute. Yeah.
Yes, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. Sorry. So our response rate challenge is actually quite fun, and it's something that, for example, if you want to do as an organization and you want to challenge another organization, or if you want to do as a county, like have Miami-Dade County challenge Broward County, it's something that's really fun. So we have on our 2020 census.gov webpage, we have the response rate map, and if you scroll all the way at the bottom, they have tips and tool guides that you can create, that's already created for you and for your organizations, that you can follow through and to sort of participate. So on the website, you can see, okay, let's say Broward County has X amount of participants and Miami-Dade has X amount. Let's see if we do a virtual week, let's say, where Miami-Dade County and all organizations like Hispanic Star, we're going to challenge these organizations to see how much we can get that percentage up. So it's on our 2020 census webpage. If you put response rate map, it comes up in the bottom, and there's toolkits, there's infographics already created that you can use, and most importantly, share. All that's available to the public and ready to use.
That sounds fun. Let's do it. Let's challenge each other. I don't know, different municipalities, not just counties. We have Miami and then Doral and Hialeah and Palmetto Bay. Let's start this challenge. I think we can definitely do it for social media. But I also want to open it up to the few participants that were brave and excited to join us. They have some ideas on how we can do this work better for either the Census, Hispanic Star Miami, or any other organization that is joining us. So let me share my screen so that we can have the names of these wonderful individuals. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So right now I'm going to be calling Ms. Gabriela Alcantara. If you can tell us why you think your community members are not filling out the census, and if you have any ideas to share with the group.
Well, hi, I'm Gabriela Alcantara Diaz. I have an agency that specializes, Semilla specializes on the upscale Hispanic market. And I think that sort of the overarching challenge is that there's still a lack of understanding of what the census is in the marketplace. And I think that for most Hispanics, even upscale Hispanics, there isn't necessarily a direct link to how does that benefit me? And there's sort of two camps. There's those consumers that probably suffer from a bit of apathy. They take it for granted, and basically, there's just not a whole lot of interest. And then there's the other consumer that tends to be more fearful, as your colleague addressed with regards to, fear of giving information. So I think that overall it's how do we further that engagement, obviously, to reduce the fear factor, but also apathy. I think that in certain markets, even like Miami, there is that lack of interest. And can there be a better connection to really show, at the end of the day, a consumer wants to know what's in it for me. So there has to be a greater effort in really showing, as Christian was saying, if it is roads. So understand what are some of those really key drivers and points of interest that are important for these different segments within the Hispanic market, to then further understand, to say, if by being counted by the census, does that mean that maybe you'll have better access to healthcare? That may be a priority issue for maybe those that are, with fear, versus the apathy. Maybe those are, they're dealing more with sustainability issues. They care more about the environment and sort of the lifestyle of the city itself. So I just think that there has to be a better way of really communicating what's in it for me, and then doing that through some storytelling that really makes it more personal.
Great, thank you, Gabriela. Yeah, insightful. Now we also want to invite Cesar Murillo. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I find this very interesting too, because actually when I was in college, I actually worked one summer for the Census Bureau collecting data for the census. And I found, when I was doing the collection, there were people that one reason I found people not answering was because they thought that I was some government agent there to collect private information from them. So, I think, awareness is extremely important. And I think part of that awareness is not only, the fear factor, but I think, and also the what's in it for me factor. But also, I think, you know, one one important aspect, I mean, if you look at the census, the original census is going back historically to ancient times. The censuses were originally about standing up and being counted. It was a way of making an assessment of who's of value also in the community. So I think, you know, part of what needs to be done is to give people, you know, a greater sense of how the census is going to help empower them to live the American dream by getting resources needed to them, but also allowing them to be counted, you know, as a viable, you know, person in the community. Now, just in terms of the data collection aspect, you know, of the census, I mean, one thing I learned when I was doing the collection was that I mean, the hiring aspect, I think is extremely important, because I you know, from and please help me with this and let me know, but a lot of the people being hired to collect the data weren't necessarily you know, of the full understanding of the importance of the job that they were doing, right? So you had a lot of people being hired to go out and collect data. They were being paid essentially per questionnaire answered. And in some cases, they were going out and answering questionnaires and turning them in, you know, without having actually interviewed anybody. I wouldn't say that would be, you know, preponderance of the people out collecting, but my concern is that in today's environment, you know, how are we going to ensure that the people being hired to collect data take the job seriously, and that are actually doing the job completely, in terms of making sure that they're putting full effort to get the questionnaires answered accurately and realistically from you know, the people they're supposed to be collecting the data from. So I think one of the important aspects of this also is making sure that we can have confidence that the data collection, you know, and maintenance of the data is also secure and accurate.
Thank you, Cesar. Yeah, better training maybe. It's something that is important. I now have Carolina Vieira. Do you wanna share your insights?
Sure. This is Carolina Vieira with IMC Health, and also a proud Hispanic Star Ambassador. My experience has been that I think our community is fearful, just like Janie and everybody here has mentioned. We don't really know, or people don't really feel sure about sharing their information. So this is something that this conversation is going to continue throughout the years, I believe. But it's, Chris, everybody made such a great point about how those numbers really impact our community and our day-to-day, right? I mean, our school system, our roads, hospitals, everything that we need is impacted by this. So maybe also mentioning to our communities that it's important because of these reasons, because of all the areas that are led by the census numbers. It's important to remind them constantly, not only during the census time, but every day, like throughout the years. It's something, it should be a continuation, like a continuous conversation, the one that we have, not only for 2020, but 2021, 2022, 2023. I mean, and also making sure that our business leaders are, I don't know, the artists out there, the people who are influencers, they also mention to the people around them, hey, have you filled out the census? This is why it's important. I think even people who have regular jobs but are managing a group of people, they are the ones who should continue this conversation, who should be asking these questions, who should be reminding their people that this is why the census is important. So thank you.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Caro. Do we have Peter on the webinar? I know that he signed up to share his views, but Peter, are you available?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Peter, correct.
Yes, hi. Thank you. Well, I should tell you right off that I'm not Hispanic, but I am involved with, you know, the community. I live with Hispanic people. And you know, when I filled out the questionnaire for this conversation, you know, it just struck me that some of the things have already been said, and I think they're obvious that there's some fear out there and things like that. But I also think that some of our politicians really need to get involved with this too. That, you know, we have 2 senators in the state. One of them, Marco Rubio, you know, is a big person down here, and I never see anything on television that he's encouraging the community to get involved with the census. And it almost seems like there's an effort, and, you know, I know that the census, the department that runs the census is apolitical, but it's becoming more political. And I read something this morning where now the administration is talking about wrapping the census up by the end of September so numbers can be available by December. And to me, that is really not very logical if we want to get a high count. And I know that puts more pressure on the census people. So I think there's a lot of areas that, you know, could improve, but one of them is I think our political leaders need to step up, and maybe that's where we put the pressure on, is that we start calling our Congress people and our senators, 2 very powerful Republican senators, by the way, Mr. Scott and Mr. Rubio, and really put the pressure on to say, look, you guys got to help out too. This is money for your state, for your people. And so that's kind of my outlook at this point today.
Well, thank you, Peter. I mean, this is why we wanted to do this, because every single one of you has a different point of view. I mean, you're right, Peter. We need to demand more from our elected officials, right? And just hearing that they want to limit the time frame to fill out the census while we're going through COVID-19 is just mind-blowing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you. I also want to see if other people have questions. I don't know if Marisa or Carolina can help me with questions that our viewers are wanting to ask.
I do have a question for Anna, if that's okay. Anna, just to the point of, obviously Florida is one of the slowest states to answer or to fill out the census, but do you feel like there's other states out there who are also very slow to answer? And maybe from Janie, I just want the 1-800 number once again, just so we can share once more, because it's important. And yeah, so more importantly with Anna, and to add on what Peter said, what is the government? I know it's at the Census Bureau, it's apolitical, but what is the government doing to encourage people to fill out the census, or is there anything being done at all?
So, you know, like you have said, the Census Bureau, we, in general, and most of us, I would say, like a good portion of us, are career researchers. So for us, this is our job. This is what we do every day. We are committed to doing an accurate count because that is what we signed up for. So I think that's really important to share, is that people are seeing a very, very few people talking about the census, but just our headquarters has several thousand people there that work every day, that run statistics, that run testing. And we are so committed to getting this done that, you know, there should be some reassurance out there that we really care as researchers about this. So, you know, that's one piece I think that I wish was more spoken about, like just the sheer number of people that work on getting this data done. So that's one piece. And then the second piece is we have spent lots of money, like a very robust marketing campaign. And it's multilingual, multicultural, in numerous languages. And so that's one of the ways in which the Census Bureau has committed to getting and reaching those communities that are less likely to respond. So we are doing all of this as we speak. We're finishing up this big searches in advertising that you may have seen, or maybe you're next, I don't know, but the different regions are getting more advertising, and we're spending money on getting the word out. So those are two things that I think are really important to know, is that we are spending lots of energy, and there's lots of very committed people at the Census Bureau.
Carolina, did you want me to share that phone number?
Definitely.
Okay, and just to add something else that I didn't know, and I just found out last week on our Facebook Live, the census records are sealed for 72 years. 72 years. That's really important for people to know. And I know Ana mentioned it earlier, that no one has access to them, right? No politician, no government, agency like the FBI or anything like that. They are sealed for 72 years. So I think there's like little bits of information that I think are really key to share with people that will help to put them at ease. And then, something that I think that we can take advantage of what's happening right now with regards to COVID. And for us, like, for example, Hispanic Star Miami, who's doing a lot of outreach to the community, a lot of giving back. We were just in Homestead last weekend, and Homestead is a farm worker community, a lot of migrant workers in Homestead, and their response rate as of last week was only 53.4%. But I know that when Hispanic Star was out there giving them the personal products, they were also holding up, banners that said, make sure that you're counted. So I think that those are things that right now in South Florida anyway, I don't know about other areas, but in South Florida, there's a lot of food distribution going on. People need food. And so I think that if we can start to, maybe partner with all those different organizations, and we know a lot of them, as people are coming through, encouraging, giving them their food, but also giving them, I don't know, like a flyer or something that says, call this 800 number, and the number is 844-468-2020, 844-468-2020, and that's a Spanish line to the census.
So let me add a couple of things. So we had, because our plans have to change very rapidly. Like in March, suddenly we had ordered thousands. Let me just give you an example on food distribution. We had ordered thousands and thousands of bags, and they were not for events. All events were canceled. So what we did is we have worked with different, and I don't know if this happened in Miami, but I do know it happened all over the country, that we took the bags that were supposed to be to events, and they're being used for food distribution. And so food banks are putting the food in there, they're getting a flyer. They also, because there's so much food delivery happening, some pizza, I don't remember which pizza chain it was putting the, a flyer on the pizza box, because we know, lots of people eat pizza, lots of people order. So those are the kinds of things that be happening in a very, very creative way. And that's something that, it's a much longer conversation, but these are the things that community partners do help us work with, because the community better than anybody. Like I can come up with what I think it's a brilliant idea, like, put stuff on buses, but if there's no bus system where you are, then it's not going to be very useful. So those are some of the things that are really interesting, and it has been changing because we had to adapt very quickly. So that's some of the stuff. And I just wanted to say one thing about the counting the young children. It's really important that we recognize that sometimes, especially like I grew up in a household where my cousins from next door were always at my house, and then we switched around a lot, and this is a cultural thing. So recognizing that this may happen, not because people want to ignore their kid, but it is because households are complex and kids move from one place to another in a much more fluid way than in other spaces. And so recognizing that, and always reminding people, you know, even the baby, even if the baby is not taking up a spot, or like the baby is still sitting on your lap, so really doesn't need a seat, we still need that baby. And I say that because even my sister said to me, oh, I wouldn't count my baby because I put him on my lap. So for her, it was like, oh, of course, I'm not gonna do this. And then I explained to her, she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, sometimes it's just that's how we see the world. And so just really encouraging people, you know, tell us about the baby. So that's what I wanted to say about the undercount of young children.
If I can pay the census a compliment, I thought was very creative. We order a lot of delivery in my household. And one of the delivery services, I don't remember if it was DoorDash or Grubhub, but we placed an order, and at the end of our order, it said, make sure you're counted, take the US Census survey. I thought that was very creative.
Yeah, and so this is the kind of partnerships that have been happening, and very rapidly, because, you know, for food delivery, and, you know, when you're going to put a business, you want to know what kind of, you know, restaurant you can put in a community, in a neighborhood, and that matters. So of course they want to get that data. So grocery stores have been really also helpful. And so I just want to encourage you, our website has a lot of resources, and Marianne, who is part of the National Partnership staff, also knows lots of things. So please reach out to us if you need anything, or if you have questions or anything else that you need.
So Anna, just to make sure that I'm understanding this as well, you're saying we do need, or the Census Bureau is looking for partners out there. So it could be anyone, right? It could be just like what Chris mentioned, you know, people, Uber Eats or whatever it is that they're willing to talk about census in their apps. Companies out there. There's somebody asking, what about partnering with radio stations, DJs, invite all these people to talk about census. So what are you guys doing about that?
So we have a very, very robust community partnership program. And so national partnerships, we have national partnerships and community partnerships, and they work extensively on reaching to those individuals, radio, television, to get both, to get people talking about it, and also for us to be able to place advertising. So there's a combination of that, you know, Marianne can explain it this way better than I can, but we do have a very robust system of trying to reach out to all of those.
So the best way would be to reach out to you or to the Census Bureau directly.
Yeah.
Same number?
Yeah, so
what's the number, or how do they get a hold of you?
So if I may, so when it comes to partnerships, we've also divided it between national partnerships and then regional partnerships. We have over 1,500 partnership specialists that are distributed throughout our census regions, that go to businesses, whether they're local or state, and then they try to get those to partner. But we also have the national partnerships, right? Which is what you think about your Univisions, your Telemundo, your LULACs, all those organizations are national partners with the U.S. Census. And then we work together to come up with ways that we can collaborate. But we also have much more on the regional, on the regional work. For example, if you know for a daycare, right? And the daycare is very interested in being a partner with the U.S. Census Bureau, because they understand that the undercount of young children is very high, specifically, not just, nationwide, but also in Miami-Dade County. So they're a partner, and they've worked together with the parents at the local daycare to make sure that when they do fill out the census, they remember to fill out the children. And, especially for those complex households where, maybe the child is split in between 2 or 3 homes. But it can be anywhere from a local to a national. If it's a local partner, then we recommend to contact your complete count committee or your regional census office, and they can have a partnership specialist reach out to you If it's a national organization, then I can go ahead and if you reach out to me, then I can go ahead and work with you to try to come up with a collaboration of how we can work together. But for the most part, if it's regional, definitely contact your regional census center or your complete count committees. They have all that information. Typically, what would happen would be that the partnership specialists can even go and attend your events and give either have a booth or, you know, give a presentation. Obviously, through COVID, they're doing pretty much what we are, which is much more on that digital sphere, giving those presentations.
Let me interrupt Marianne real quick. There's two questions, and I know that we are really short on time. It's already 5:03, but the one question was, when filling out the census, do you count the baby that hasn't been born yet? Like
No.
an expecting mother? No.
So if the baby is born on April 1st, then that baby is counted. If baby is born on April 2nd, that baby should not be counted.
Okay. And for people who are not very technology savvy, we can assume, the question is, we can assume that every person is comfortable. So I guess what are the other resources that they have available?
So let's say that, you know, you're not comfortable doing technology, or you don't get technology. There's areas where you don't really get good internet access. So that is why we have the telephone number, and their data can be collected over the phone. So if the person still has the letter, for example, there's a number. They can call that number, and then they will get their data collected over the phone. That's one way. The other way is after the third or fourth time that we try to contact them with a letter, they will also have received the census questionnaire. They can fill out the questionnaire, old school, you know, stamped envelope. We have a stamped envelope already in there, and send it back to us. Those are two different ways. And if all of that does not work for them, then someone will come. This is why, but it is the last resort to do, like, the person coming to your door. And I just want to be honest, it is because it is so expensive to send someone out to a door and go door to door. And we're seeing that, especially during COVID. If people are concerned about contact with others, we want to encourage them to use the phone or go online. That's fast, it's easy, and it's safe. You can do it from your living room.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's been great. I think we've all learned. We've all gotten new information on how to engage our community. I know that it's already past the time. Do you, Christian, Anna, or Janie have final words, or can we wrap it up?
Just an invitation. Next week, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, we'll be doing another Facebook Live on the Hispanic Star Miami Facebook page. So join us then, and just go directly to the Facebook page.
Wonderful. Christian? Okay.
No final words.
Anna?
I just want to say thank you, everybody, on behalf of, you know, myself and the Census Bureau, and for making us a part of your community and being part of this effort, because we all do count, and it's really important to get counted. So thank you, and please encourage everyone to fill out the census form.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I just want to close it out saying this. Okay, we learned today about numbers, data, how much money is in the line. By the way, $45 billion are on the line for Florida. Keep that in mind. But above all that, I think the census can be seen as aspirational on how the world should look for us in 2025, in 2030, and beyond. This is a tool to really shape the community that we want to live in, for our children, for our grandchildren, for our family in general. I think it's a very important conversation to have. I ask that everyone reach out to their networks, to their family, friends, boyfriends. You need to really get them engaged. Fill out the census, join us, join the census, join Hispanic Star Miami. If you're interested in starting a hub, we can also connect you to the right person in Hispanic Star National. And remember, physical distancing and wear your mask. and let's keep the conversation going. We're gonna have a second webinar in August, on August 19th, and it's gonna be in Spanish because we're, like I said, we're very inclusive and we wanna do things in English and also Spanish. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Have a good day.
Cuento. Our
Bye.
voices have power. Our voices have power.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. You have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Thank you.